The first is Senator Stanley.
Senator from Franklin County, Senator Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I now move that we waive the reading of the floor amendment.
Question is, shall the reading of the floor amendment be waived? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The reading of the floor amendment is waived. Senator from Franklin County, Senator Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I now move that the floor amendment pass and speak to the measure.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. For too long, those men and women that serve us in law enforcement, keep us safe, keep our property safe, save our lives, enforce our laws, have been underpaid. And it's a universal problem throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia, and more so even in our area, where we have a 19% attrition rate that is turnover. People that join the sheriff's departments are leaving for better paying jobs. And I know this budget contains a 3% increase in the second year of the biennium, and I am very grateful for that. But with that kind of attrition rate, and even in some cases where there are deputy sheriffs who work for our sheriff's department who have a number of children, and because of the number of children and the rate of pay, they qualify for public assistance, that we need to do something about their salaries and keep the finest men and women that we have employed with our sheriffs. I was just talking to one of my sheriffs in my county, one of the counties that I serve, and he was telling me the story about one of his sergeants, a woman that had worked for his office for a number of years. And yet she went to him and said, can you reduce my salary by $85 a week so I can get public assistance medical insurance for my children? That should never happen in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And so, Mr. President, here's what I'm proposing. I think that the men and women of our sheriff's departments deserve a 3% raise to increase their annual salaries effective July 1st, 2020. But more importantly, whether we vote this up or down, which I hope it will be the pleasure of the body to vote this amendment as a part of the budget. The language that I'm even more interested in, not just compensating them, is that too often, Mr. President, when we give these raises to our law enforcement, to our deputy sheriffs, because a lot of counties supplement their incomes with local supplements, what we're seeing is that when we go home and we say, did you like your raise? You're welcome. And they said, we didn't see a raise because the counties cut the budget or cut their supplement in their pay by the exact number that we raised them. So what we ended up doing was giving a subsidy to the county and not rewarding our deputies in the manner that they deserve to be rewarded. So this amendment also precludes localities from reducing local salary supplements and supplanting local salary supplement funds with the salary increase funds provided by the Compensation Board. I hope it will be the pleasure of the body to accept this amendment, but also that this language could somehow, some way, find it in the second biennium so that we don't have that reduction from the 3% raise in the second year. Thank you, Mr. President. I renew my motion that my floor amendment pass.
Thank the Senator. For purpose, Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson rise.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise reluctantly but firmly to speak against the amendment.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I had the honor of being the chair of the General Government Subcommittee in Finance, and we put a lot of time into doing everything we could to raise pay, not just for state employees, but also for state-supported employees, which is to say compensation board employees, commissioners of revenue, sheriffs, clerks, you name it, Commonwealth attorneys. We did it, everything we could. And the bottom line is what we did was what made sense, and we paid for it. We had set aside approximately $230 million to have a 3% pay raise, which goes into effect June of 2022, next year. And then we also set aside 3% for a Christmas bonus or a December bonus for state employees. And the reason why we didn't make it for Comp Board was quite simply, as we talked about this with staff, is since they are also locally supplemented, the numbers didn't match up, and we just didn't have the money for it. My colleague has proposed a very generous bonus here, but it costs $19 million. And unless someone just suddenly drops a check for $19 million out of the sky, we don't have the money in the budget. So what we did do was we set aside $200 as basically a December bonus, again, targeted to sheriffs and sheriff deputies. That is $2.6 million. That's what we did have in the budget. My colleague, Senator Lucas, was the one that specifically asked that we do that, so I'm going to give her a shout-out on that. But the bottom line is We made it a priority in our subcommittee to do everything we could for both state employees and state-supported employees. I'm proud of what we did. Maybe next year when we come back, we can do a bit more. We probably can, but this is where we are right now, and we're paying for it. Thank you. So please vote against the amendment.
Thank you, Senator. Do any senators other than Senator Stanley wish to be heard regarding the floor amendment? Seeing none, Senator from Franklin County, Senator Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Briefly, speaking to the floor amendment.
Senator, has the floor.
I appreciate my friend's work on public safety. I do indeed. But every day, these men and women put their lives on the line for us. Every day, they go through their job not looking for glory, recognition, but just looking to make sure that they're helping somebody and that they make it back home to their family that night. That's what they aspire to do. And, you know, it's $9 million already in this budget already there for the raise on the back end. It's $9 million what I'm asking on the front end for the 3%. 3%. If we took out the gender change to the driver's licenses or the cards that we're giving to those that may not be citizens of our country to drive, we could certainly pay for it. And quite frankly, Mr. President, if I do recall reading in the newspaper, our governor, His Excellency, has found like $145 million, more money. $300 million, I'm now told. So this is not going to affect your budget. But it's going to affect the lives of the men and women of our Sheriff's Department in ways that will make them happy, proud, and be told from us that they matter as they do their job keeping us safe. And I renew my motion, and I thank you, Mr. President, for my floor amendment. I move that it pass.
Thank you, Senator. For what purpose does a junior senator from Richmond City, Senator Morrissey, rise?
Mr. Speaker, I'll yield to the senator from Fairfax, and I do request to speak.
Senator from Northern Fairfax, Sarah Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. The senator mentioned the money that came recently from the governor's office with the increase in revenues. That has already been spent in the budget. We have put about $112 million into the rainy day fund. We've got additional money into the reserve funds. We're using some of that money to not to use cash for maintenance reserves. That money is gone and already programmed. In addition, there is not this much money left over. It would make our budget unbalanced, and that is something we constitutionally cannot do.
What purpose does the junior senator from Richmond City, Senator Morrissey, rise?
Will the gentleman from Franklin yield for a question?
Will the senator yield?
I will gladly yield for my friend.
Senator yield, you have the floor.
I would ask the senator, while I appreciate his appreciation for those first responders that put their lives on the line, the senator from Fairfax City and the senator from Fairfax said there's no money in the budget. The senator from Fairfax said that's only unless we went into the rainy day fund. Can the senator from Franklin tell us where that additional $9 million would come from? And if he can, then I'm willing to support it. If he can't, I'm less likely to support it.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, I would answer the gentleman by saying from my review of the budget book that we have here, there's $10 million left on the bottom line. Now, I may be mistaken. They don't put me on finance. But there's $10 million unappropriated. So it would be paid with the unappropriated amount. There's plenty of stuff on this list right here, millions of dollars, that could be readjusted to make this a most worthy budget amendment happen for our deputies, men and women who wear the badge and keep us safe. Quite frankly, Mr. President, I'd answer the gentleman by saying also, too, that's why they all get in a conference. I mean, this is just our recipe. We've got the house recipe coming, and then we make the soup. And I understand the gentlelady from Fairfax's requirement and desire to make sure that our budget is balanced. But there is a desire, I think, to protect our men and women in law enforcement.
I thank the gentleman. Would the gentleman from Fairfax City yield for a question?
Senator yield. Senator yield, you have the floor.
I would ask the gentleman, without dipping into the rainy day fund, Is there $10 million left in the budget to do what the senator from Franklin City wants to do?
Senator has the floor.
I would just point the gentleman out that this is not a bonus. This is a 3% annual salary increase. So it rolls forward to the next year. So what you're talking about is $9.045 million the first year, $9.868 million the next year. Using my Fairfax High School math skills, that gives you about $19 million. We don't have $19 million. The bottom line is we've budgeted. We've made decisions on how we're going to pay our employees. Again, we can come back next year and we can take a look at where we are and we can bump them up even more if we can. But this is where we are right now. So, again, firmly, I ask you to oppose this amendment.
Would the gentleman yield for one final question?
Senator yields. Senator yields. You have the floor.
I can't find it now, but I thought I remembered during the budget hearing that we were provided from the finance staff that we're giving a $200 bonus in December for every sheriff and every deputy sheriff. And is that true? And does that total $2.5 million?
Yes, and I direct your attention to item 4, if I might, Mr. Chair.
Senator the floor.
I direct your attention to item 477, number 6S on page 227. And again, this was a discussion we had in our subcommittee that we did want to show a little bit of love to the sheriffs and sheriff deputies. And so we pulled out a $200 one-time bonus, so it's not rolling forward on the next fiscal year, and that equals $2.649 million. And that is what paid for in the budget.
Further question?
I thank the gentleman speaking to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
2 words. Sorry, Bill.
What purpose does the senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain, rise?
President, I rise to speak to the floor amendment.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, I am indeed perplexed and a bit disappointed. I'm perplexed by the speeches that have been given today. You know, just a little while ago, we talked about the plight of people who are struggling to earn a living on limited income in the private sector. We're telling businesses across Virginia, you've got to provide a living wage to your employees. Yet we are unwilling to provide a living wage to the men and women of our law enforcement community. Let me tell you, it is a rainy day for those men and women in public safety across the Commonwealth of Virginia. If we can talk glibly about allowing people or requiring people to pay an extra $2 or $3 for admission to Busch Gardens and King's Dominion because it's not that much of a hardship on them. Let me tell you, it's a hardship for these men and women who work for our sheriffs across the Commonwealth of Virginia who put their lives on the line every single day. If we're not willing to put our money where our mouth is and take care of the men and women who protect us every day of the year, I don't know what we're doing here. For me, you know, this is about priorities. It's about funding the things that are really important, the foundational responsibilities of government. And if there's anything more important or a more basic responsibility or priority for government than ensuring the safety of our citizens, please tell me what it is. You know, we spent about an hour down the hall a little bit earlier today getting briefed on this budget. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the Senate Finance Committee's efforts in that regard. And I think there are a lot of really great things in this budget. But I'm looking at page 6 of the briefing material for Senate Bill 30, the biennial budget. At the very beginning of the presentation, the third bullet says that there is an unappropriated balance in the introduced budget and that it yields a balance of $10.1 million. We should take care of these people. We should not do one thing for public safety and then tell our businesses we don't care about the hardships that you're encountering. We don't care about the people that you're going to have to lay off. We don't care that you're going to have to cut hours so that you can afford to keep those people and have law enforcement across the Commonwealth of Virginia qualify for public assistance. This is an important amendment that we should adopt.
Thank you, Senator. For what purpose, Senior Senator from Virginia Beach, Senator D. Staff rise.
Mr. President, I'll first start by saying one of our number one responsibilities up here is safety and security of our citizens. That should be something we do in our base budget. And to answer the junior senator from Richmond, it's pretty easy to get to that $19 million. Let me walk you through how to get to about $50 million real quick. Driver's license privilege cards, $9.4 million. That's driver's privilege cards for illegal immigrants. Funding for IUTA, $850,000. Investigators for jail desks, $370,000. Office of the New Americas, $300,000. Drug-related felons receive food stamps, $529,444. Adult dental care on Medicaid program, $175 million. Clean energy, $8 million. Labor and Employment Law Division, 1 attorney, supervisor, and administrative assistant, and other workers, $2.537 million. Housing Pilot Program for the City of Falls Church, $2 million. Historic houses, add them up, another $9 million. Right there, Mr. President, and for the gentleman, the junior senator from Richmond City, right there's $50 million. If we can't use a little bit of that money, we can't prioritize our budget to take care of those who take care of us, we're in a sad state, Mr. President, a very sad state.
For what purpose, the Senator from King George, Senator Stewart rise.
Mr. President, speak to the amendment.
Senator, has the floor.
Mr. President, I stand in support of the amendment. You know, I have worked with these folks. I've been in the community with these folks. I have seen the selflessness that they give to the rest of us day in and day out. And many of these folks leave in the morning. They don't know if they're coming home that day, and neither do their spouses. And this is just a small part. I mean, you're talking deputy sheriffs that, in many respects, could make less than what we just raised the minimum wage to. So it's a small thing to try to help these folks, and I think we need to support them, and I hope you all will support this.
Thank the Senator. Do any other senators other than Senator Howe wish to be heard on the floor amendment? Seeing none, Senator from Northern Fairfax, Senator Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. I hope we will reject this floor amendment. It will have the effect of putting our budget out of balance, and we are constitutionally required to have a balanced budget. And I must say, I find it kind of disingenuous to hear from people who have never voted for any tax or fee increase to start saying that, oh, we should be spending more money, we should be doing more. I think that they need to think real long and hard about their own positions.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the floor amendment be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The ayes have it. The floor amendment is adopted. Seeing 8 hands, we'll have a recorded vote. All in favor of adopting the floor amendment will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? All the senators voted. Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 15, noes 24.
Ayes 15, noes 24. The amendment is not adopted.